So I gotta give a warning about not giving a fuck. First of all, studies have been shown that when a woman notices that an attractive man is making eye contact with them, their brain releases dopamine. But they've noticed that when an unattractive man is looking at them, their brain releases the stress hormone cortisol. Do you want to know the only time when an unattractive man releases dopamine in a woman? Studies have shown that the only time an unattractive man that a woman sees unattractive, the only time he releases dopamine is when the motherfucker looks away. All right. So we got to understand is that this only applies when she's actually kind of attracted to you. Right. Because when the unattractive guy, when the attractive guy didn't look at the woman or looked away, stress hormone is released in the woman. Right. So this is what we're talking about. When a woman is into you, which every man, no matter how ugly you are, somebody's going to like you one day. This is the video for you. Now, I don't recommend people to just not give a fuck for the sake of not giving a fuck. All right. Because whenever I talk about not giving a fuck, what I'm naturally referring to is just having low intention, high attachment. That's pretty much the whole point of not giving a fuck, is developing that mentality where you have high intention, you want to be with this person, right? But also you have low attachment, which is, it's almost like a friend telling you, let's go to a party, and you're excited. And you're in your mind, you're saying, oh, okay, the concept of a party is good. And you're saying to yourself, I cannot wait to go to the party. But then your friend says, actually, there's not going to be a party. And then all of a sudden, you feel a letdown, but it doesn't last for too long. Or better yet, you're on your way to a certain country, and you're excited. But then they tell you the flight is canceled. And you're disappointed, but you're able to move on. That's what I'm talking about. High intention, high attachment is you have high intention, you get disappointed, and you're not able to move on. All right. So that's to me what it means to not give a fuck. All right. But it also means to just show some coldness from time to time, and how this affects a person's mind, particularly how it affects a man's mind. All right. So we're going to talk about it in 3 different levels: how it affects the brain, but also we're going to talk about what different parts of their lives creates that type of trigger, right? So we're going to talk about how somebody's childhood affects the way they react to somebody not caring that much, how their past relationships, how their expectations, how all of those things create trigger points that by you displaying that you don't care creates that type of reaction where they pretty much lose complete control over how they behave. Naturally, the brain, when it gets romantically rejected, it stimulates a certain part of the person's brain when they get romantically rejected, and that part of the brain that gets hurt is associated with motivation, aggression, reward, addictions, cravings, which is pretty much your amygdala, which is your reptilian brain, right? And whenever that part of the brain gets activated, or it receives a signal from its environment that says it's in pain, that says it's your survival is at risk, which essentially means somebody rejected you. That also means your survival is at risk, evolutionarily speaking. It pretty much short circuits your frontal cortex, because what happens is this: you receive, for example, let's just say you see a lion, right? A lion, you turn around and a lion is literally about to bite your fucking head off, right? There's a moment when you see it, you know what's going on, but you can't process what's going on. You know what's going on because your brain literally says, without words, it says this is a dangerous situation. And it fills your body up with fear, right? And you have no time to process it. The reason why you have no time to process it is because, one, the signal goes from the thalamus, which is where the part of the brain I believe that receives sensory information, to the amygdala. There's literally a quote unquote wire that goes directly to the amygdala. And after that signal is sent, then it reaches the frontal cortex, which is pretty much the part of the brain that analyzes and says, oh my God, that was crazy, right? But you don't have time for it. But what happens is that the amygdala pretty much floods your whole brain with fear. And that part of the brain that allows you to process things verbally in your mind pretty much gets short-circuited. So a person whose amygdala is activated loses control. They have no control. They start acting in ways that are irrational because that part of the brain, their rational self, is so flooded with emotion that it cannot think straight. Right, so emotional responses first come from the amygdala, and then our rational thoughts take over. But if the emotional response is very intense, this person does not have time to actually think, or better yet, this person will not be thinking before they act. And so this person will do a lot of needy things. This person will chase even though you don't give a fuck. And you want to know why? Because I'm gonna explain to you different reasons why this person cannot think straight at you not giving a fuck about them for the most part. But sometimes those signals from the amygdala are so intense that they completely possess your behavior. It's like when they call it crimes of passions, right? Crimes of passions are pretty much crimes when you just aggression takes over so much that you do something you normally wouldn't do. Or when people say they blacked out of anger, they blacked out because they got so angry. It's because the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that produces aggression, is so fucking insane and it has so much power over you that your rational mind cannot even control it. And that's the epitome of a human that transcends its humanity. It's somebody who's able to control their emotions. So the amygdala's extensive web of neural connections allows it, during an emotional emergency like a lion about to bite your head off, to capture and drive much of the rest of the brain, including the rational mind, right? And so that's why when you activate that feeling of neediness, the feeling of you getting rejected, the feeling of maybe this person doesn't like me as much, they start acting out of character. So what are the things that trigger these types of behavior? One, childhood, right? Being romantically rejected can be a familiar feeling that mirrors one's childhood, leading that person to seek out more of the same. Feelings and emotions that are intense for some reason are memories of the past. For example, don't you notice that for some reason when somebody rejects you, you have this weird need to get their validation? And some people might ask themselves, why is it that I feel this need to get validated even though I know it's not correct? I didn't have a bad childhood. I don't remember nothing bad. But what you do remember is the emotional experience. You see, the part of the brain that stores memories where you can consciously remember them is not the same part of the brain that was mostly fully activated as a child when you were perceiving the world and you weren't able to formulate thought. The way that you still remember things from when you were a baby or even a toddler, you remember it, but not the way you remember thoughts today. You remember them as a form of an emotion, almost like a fossil, an emotional imprint that you consistently feel this discontent. You consistently feel this weird depression that comes over you, and you ask yourself, what's the source of this? What you really are doing is having another form of remembering. It's an emotional imprint that you remember through feeling, because as a child, you really didn't experience the world through words. You experienced the world through images and emotions, right? And so you remember your past, your neglect, you not receiving love, not through a conscious remembrance, but through a pre-verbal way, feeling it. You feel. And so when somebody rejects you, it reminds you of the moment when your needs weren't met as a child through the intense feeling. And those intense feelings come from your amygdala. That's where it comes from. And that's why you just lose control. You start acting out of character. You start acting super needy. Right? Because the amygdala is our first way of creating memories as a child. And through smelling and through images, right? And so it remembers through feelings. The cortex wasn't developed to create concrete memories. Right? So that's one thing. Childhood. Right? Whenever you remind them of a certain neglect that this person had in the past, through you not giving a fuck, through you through you being inconsistent from time to time, which is what some neglectful parents do, and a lot of us were neglected as children, you pretty much activate that projection. And that activation of the projection is pretty much just an emotional remembrance which clouds the way you see this person. The next one is the dating history. Right? People with a history of rejection may sometimes subconsciously seek out similar scenarios, hoping that the story will have a different ending. And I remember this happened once where I was dating a girl. Long story short, she rejected me. And I pretty much started chasing after her because I met another girl who literally looked like her. Like she literally looked like her. Like it was like almost a spitting image of her. And as a result, I started chasing this person, literally because she reminded me of the ex that broke up with me. And the reason why you do that is you could that projection is activated two different ways. You behave similar to the ex, or you look similar to the ex. But the point is that you're gonna try to recreate and fix to recreate the same scenario, but fix it this time. It's almost like if a dog dies, you have this hole in your heart, and as a result you buy a dog that looks similar to the dog that died. Speaking of dogs, by the way guys, if you guys are interested in ever working with me one-on-one to either have a personal boot camp where I literally take you out on the streets, we approach women and I give you feedback about what you're doing right or wrong. I'll approach women so that you can see the concept in application. Click on the description down below, and if you guys want that personal boot camp, you can message me on Instagram. We have 1-day boot camps, like 400, weekend boot camps that are individual and one-on-one people for 800 for a whole weekend, right? Also, if you guys ever want to work with me on the phone, want me to make you guys have a question that you guys want to ask me and I'll make a video about it, click on the description down below where it says work with me. Or you could join my Patreon, which for $25 a month, you guys can ask me one question and I'll make a video about it. All right, so let's continue. All right, so dating history, right? So most of the time, the people that hurt us are the ones that didn't care that much. And so by you not caring, you activate that projection in that person, or if you look like the person that didn't care, right? So that's one thing. Dating history will create that projection, and also the rejector, right? Another aspect of this anguish may have to do with the perceived value of the other person. So you not caring will naturally, or you not being available for this person will naturally increase your perceived value, right? Especially if you as a person have low self-esteem. If the other person who doesn't want us or is not available for a relationship, their perceived value goes up. They become so expensive that we cannot afford them per se. Evolutionarily speaking, it will have been an advantage to mate with the most valuable mate. So it makes sense that we become romantically interested when a person's perceived value increases. And one of the ways is for them just rejecting us, or them being in a relationship, or them being gay, like seriously, or having a barrier between you and the person. So it could be that this person is somebody else's boyfriend, or it could be that this person is a psychologist, or it could be that this person is a YouTuber. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's one thing, right? And the next way is that all the reasons for people being affected by people who don't give a fuck about them is that they're trying to fix the past. There's a different ending explanation, right? Like they want to have a different ending. If we have a story of being rejected by a parent, for example, we sometimes subconsciously seek out a similar scenario, hoping that the story will have a different ending next time. It's pretty much, you're just trying to fix your past. Right? You're trying to make sure you're trying to fix your past by dating people who remind you of somebody and hoping to win. It's almost like it's almost like playing a video game and you keep going to the boss level and the boss keeps beating you. So you keep going back and back and back until you beat them. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen, right? But this is what happens when you are unattached to somebody. You just spark a bunch of projections. And their brain literally takes over their rational mind. They become emotional. They start doing things they wouldn't do before. Heck, you even start to see them as pathetic because you say to yourself, why are you acting this way, right? You say to yourself, why would you let me treat you this way? And I can promise you, with somebody else that they feel that the relationship is more equal, they wouldn't act this way. They really wouldn't, They'll act more confident. You know what I'm saying? They'll act more. If you ask somebody that they feel that they don't care about, and you ask them, "Yo, how does he or she act?" They were like, "Oh, he's a confident person. Oh, he's a this or that." But then if somebody asks you about this person, they were like, "Oh, this guy's needy. This guy doesn't stop texting me." It's because you're pretty much regressing this person to their childhood to have them feel emotions they cannot control. And that's what you see in a certain part of their personality, you know. So when you spark that projection in this needy individual, you're just gonna notice that they're just gonna start being more needy around you. They're gonna start texting you more, calling you more, wanting to get more of your attention, almost like a child behaves with a parent that isn't really giving them the attention they want, and they're desperate for their attention. Understand that a child sense of desperation for attention is there because, evolutionarily speaking, if this child doesn't get attention from its mother, it's gonna die. In the fucking jungle, there wasn't child protective agency in the jungle. Like, there wasn't fucking Melissa the social worker in the middle of the savannas. It wasn't there. It was fucking John the hyena, fucking Bob the fucking the Wolverine, you know, Simba the lion, and all of them were gonna kill you. So that's why when you create that feeling of rejection through subtly not giving a fuck, especially if you mix it with mixed signals, which is fucking toxic, they just regress to a child. And you pretty much have this person in your hand now. Eventually, if you keep doing this, you will lose respect for this person. This person will secretly resent you, and they'll want to get revenge on you for making them feel so needy, right? And naturally, it doesn't really lead to a loving relationship if you keep doing this consistently, right? Because like I said, the person will resent you. The person will resent you. But this is why applying these strategies that I teach, this is why they work. Because it hits at the core of the reptilian brain, where they cannot control how they behave. And if you do it properly on guys that you like, along with some warmth and a little bit of pain, which is what this pretty much is, which is you're pretty much activating projections and unfulfilled needs, you have them in your hand. But again, you can't do too much of this, because if you do too much of this, it'll go too far and it'll ruin what could have been a good relationship. And that's why I say, man, don't stay with people who you don't care about, because you're pretty much traumatizing them. But you know, if you care about somebody, learning how to show them that you don't give a fuck that much will create that effect. Right? So that's it, man. Let me know what you guys think of this video, man. If you guys ever want to get one-on-one coaching, you guys know exactly where to go. Check out my courses in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time. So if you're a guy that's just like me, who considers himself a nice guy, and you in your whole life you've been getting played by women, this is the course for you. Remember, I was a Bible teacher for most of my life as a teenager. So I was the quintessential nice guy. So this course that I created is specifically made to bring out your assertive nature, because when you're a nice guy, your assertiveness is suppressed. So by watching this course, you're pretty much going to learn not to get played. Now, mind you, you're not going to turn into a white guy into a black guy. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to happen because you see a white guy and then you see a big old black guy named Tyrone. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is that you're going to learn how to assert yourself in a respectful and healthy way. You're going to learn how to express yourself. You're going to learn how to demand respect from men and women. And what's going to happen at the end of this course is that men will respect you and women will bang you, for the most part. Okay, so you're gonna, and the beauty about this is that there's a 30-day money back guarantee. 30 days. So if you don't like it, just message me and I'll give you your 30, and I'll give you all of your money back, and you can keep the course. So what you're gonna learn about the source of human aggression, strategies on self-assertion, how to identify different types of disrespects, right? How to deter aggression, signs of weakness that you might be sending out that's causing people to disrespect you, right? You're going to learn how to attack some people and who not to attack. It's pretty much going to make you more socially intelligent. It's a course for anybody who struggles with assertion, and specifically with people who've been jaded by being played by people, okay? So if you want to purchase this course, go to the description down below and where it says purchase nice guy, and do it now. 30-day money back guarantee, no questions asked, and you can keep the course, god damn it, okay? Because I am that nice of a guy, ironically, okay? So I'll see you guys inside, and I hope you guys enjoyed this course. I put a lot of my heart in it, and I'll see you guys inside. Purchase it now. Take care. Stay toxic.